All right, 1974. As you think back on it, a lot of you were here. A lot of you, some of you in the room obviously played on that team. Many others were in the stands watching that team win the Southwest Conference Championship in 1974. And thanks to Walter Abercrombie and Tammy and Lauren, they brought the 74 championship trophy here today. So it is front and center. That's fun to see. But Coach Grant Taft, that was his third year as head coach here at Baylor. And we've asked Coach Taft to say a word as we begin this morning. Welcome, Coach Grant Taft.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. I'm in the middle of the room, so I apologize for having my back to somebody at any time I turn. But thank you, John, and I'd like to, on behalf of all of us that love this great university and the athletic programs, thank you for all you've done through the years. You've been a terrific spokesman for us. Thank you very much. First thing I'd like to say is I don't think anybody could have a true understanding of what my feelings are at this moment, getting to see so many of the players on the 74 team. There's been much written and much said about that team. That team did something that no other Baylor team had done for 50 years, and that was to win a championship. And that was an extraordinary thing because it changed everything for Baylor. The way people viewed Baylor nationally, the way the media viewed Baylor, the way students viewed Baylor, the way donors viewed Baylor. Baylor was a champion. Baylor had always been a champion in the academic world. Nobody better in the Southwest Conference. But they had struggled with the football program in particular. And there were many reasons for that. There were no investments. We came here, there wasn't a blade of grass on a field that we had to practice on and play on. The stadium, not a blade. We had to change that. Somehow I had to raise $250,000, it's $1 million now, for AstroTurf. But I told everybody we got to have AstroTurf. And Judge McCall, in his famous way of answering you, grunted to me and said, well, if you can get the money, you can do it. Well, I didn't know two people from Baylor when I got here. Where am I going to get $250,000? Fella from down in Corpus Christi, a Baylor ex, called me when I took the job on the day it was announced I was coming to Baylor. And this guy, if you know old Ralph, he's just about as natural as you can get. He speaks very simply. He said, this here's old Ralph Storm down in Corpus Christi, and I see you're going to be our football coach. I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I'm so happy that you're going to do it. We need to have something done with our program. And I hope you're the man to do it. But just let me say this, if you ever need anything, give me a call. I said, well, fine. I didn't think much about it till I got over here and found I had to find $250,000 for AstroTurf. So what I do? I called old Ralph Storm down in Corpus Christi. I said, Mr. Storm, this is Coach up in Waco, and I want to tell you, university has allowed me to get AstroTurf, which is going to change our recruiting. We're the only school that doesn't have AstroTurf, and there's not a blade of grass on it. I don't have a practice field anywhere, so I need AstroTurf. And I got to raise $250,000. He said, okay, I'll give it to you. Good call. Next thing happened, we didn't have a weight room, as you guys that were here know. They had a four-station universal gym. That was it. And so I said, look, if we're gonna beat Texas, we're gonna have a weight room because we've got to develop these young guys. We got great athletes, but they have to be developed. And so I go again to the judge and ask him for, this time, $50,000 because I could take an old room that they had there, concrete block, and fix it up, get our weights, put them in, and do it all $50,000. Again, he said, well, if you can raise it, you can get it. Again, I couldn't call Ralph. That was too much. So There was a guy on campus here who's gone that many of us love deeply, Charlie Jones, if you remember Charlie. Charlie loved Baylor football, and so he happened to come by my office the afternoon that I visited with Judge and got the permission to build us a weight room, get the weights that we needed. And I guess I was rather forlorn sitting there at my desk, and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Oh, Charlie, I gotta have $50,000 to put a weight room here." He said, "Let me look around." He's in development. I said, "Okay." About a week later, he called me. He said, "Now come to your office?" And I said, "Yeah." He came over and he said, "Coach, I got the money, but you won't take it." I said, "What?" He said, "I got the money for your weight room, but you won't take it." I said, "Charlie, why don't you try me and see if I'll take it?" He said, "Coach, it's Anheuser-Busch stock. A little lady up in Dallas gave me that to give to you." I said, "I'll take it." And then I said, "The devil's had that money long enough." True story. So we got the 50,000. But anyway, what I need to just wind up here is this is a tremendous day for Donnell and I and all of our coaches to get to see these men that we're so proud of and their families and what they've done in their lives. And it's just an honor to have been their coach and to have the concept that people have of this team as the true champions of Baylor.
Yeah. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you all for being here today. Let me make a couple of other introductions. Mrs. Sandra Covington is right back here. You know Sandra. Her husband was Dr. Red Covington, the team doctor. And Sandra, we love you and appreciate you being here today. Thank you very much. Also, if you're a letterman in any sport at Baylor, if you're a letterman in any sport, raise your hand. Let's see you around the room here. Wow, look at that. All right, great. Letterman in any sport. All right, if you are a member of the 1974 Southwest Conference Championship football team at Baylor, stand up, please. If you're a member of the 74 championship team, look at there. All right, Mursky. Fantastic. Coaches. That's a crew right there. Congratulations, guys. All right, 4 of you guys keep standing or stand back up. Bring up the captains from the 1974 Baylor team. Neil Jeffrey, Aubrey Schultz, Darrell Luce, and Joe C. Johnson. Guys, come on up here. Appreciate it. Find a spot. Appreciate you guys being here. Look at this. If you want to see this a little closer at the end of the program, I'd be glad to show it to you. This is a 1974 Baylor football media guide, and it is in pristine condition. I don't know how, but it looks great. And you guys are on the cover. So it's Coach Taff in the middle, and it's you 4 guys as the team captains right there around him at old Baylor Stadium with the old press box. But it's really amazing. And I'm going to say you guys look as good today as you do right there, which was 45 years ago, which is hard to believe. But appreciate you letting us do this today. Share the mics. You've got 2 mics up there. Joe, you've got one in your hand. Does it seem like it's been 45 years since that 74 season?
It doesn't necessarily seem like it's been 45 years, but when I think back on some of the things that happened then, I know it's been 45 years.
And Aubrey, you've got a mic also, 45 years.
Oh, it didn't. It seems like it was just yesterday, but we all know it was 45 years, and we can't stop the clock on that. We're getting older and still think about it every day and the things that it brought to our lives and so forth. But before we do that, John, I'd like to stop and foremost just say that, we're up here as legends because we're captains, but the real legends, it was the 1974 football team.
Yes.
And it was, the coaches, the players, the student managers, the trainers, they're the legends. We're just here to see it along. So, guys, y'all are accomplished so much, and we're so proud of all of y'all for that. But going back to 45 years, I know at one of the games during our season, they were honoring the 1924 team for 50 years, and I know Doug Furch and I, we were roommates, and we were talking, said, God, those guys are old, says, can they even make it out there and so forth? And then here it is, in 5 years, we're going to be there. So it all comes back around, but
That's great.
It doesn't seem like 50 years
Boy,
or
that's
45
great.
years.
Neil, 74 was a special year, and it was on the heels of a 73 season that was disappointing. I mean, 2-9 kind of took a step back from Coach Taft's first year in 72. You were 2-9. You were 0-7 in 73.
Yeah.
What was the thinking among the team? What y'all could do going into 74?
Well, we had a good team and good players, and it was a tough year. But there was just a feeling. That's when Coach Taft that spring really did the I believe stuff. And of course, nobody really believed. Sports writers didn't believe, and they're writing story. We'd leave the conference in no way, but he believed, and our staff believed, and we just had a confidence, and we believed. And I think we were the first conference team ever at that time in the history of the NCAA to go lose every conference game the year before, and then be the champions the next year. And of course, at the end, when we were winning, everybody believed. But it didn't matter. We believed in that locker room. We really did. Wow. And it was obviously a very special year.
So what you're saying is, when it started, it was I believe. It was singular. It was I. And then it became we as the season went on, right? Darryl, what do you remember going into that season? Did you guys feel confident that you could turn things around going into that 74 year?
Well, I'm going to have to admit, I wasn't as confident as these guys are talking about.
Okay.
When I came to Baylor, I came from a high school, we'd won 20 games in a row. And it's a good thing for me and Baylor that the transfer rules were a little different back then. Because after that first year, they had freshman football, and the varsity won one game. I wasn't used to that, and it wasn't any fun. If anybody, I've coached a lot of youth sports since this time, and people that say that T-ball kids don't know what the score is, well, they never played anything. I've got a 4-year-old grandson sitting right there that he can guarantee he knows every goal everybody scores in soccer. So they know, and it wasn't any fun. The year before, like Neil said, we weren't as bad as our record showed, but when things go bad, they just snowball, and we had a terrible year. But it sure was fun when we turned it around.
What a turnaround in one season. Joe, what was it like? So 3 of you guys were here as freshmen in 71. Aubrey, you came in from Tyler Junior College.
Yes.
But how did you end up at Baylor? What attracted you to Baylor, when you came here in 1971? Darryl, you got a mic?
Well, that is an interesting story because I was kind of a late bloomer in high school. Tall, skinny kid, didn't shave till late. But I became and recruiting didn't start so early then. It was mostly as a senior. But when the University of Texas offered me, and Colorado, and LSU, and all these people, I visited the University of Texas 5 times. And coming from a small town of 10,000 people, having to park over on South 6th Street and walk back to a dorm on campus, just didn't feel right. When I came to Baylor, it just felt right. Yeah. And the coaches there at the time, Mickey Sullivan, who we lost a couple of years ago, he doesn't get mentioned much for the 74 team, but he recruited an awful lot of the seniors that became part of that team and were here when Coach Taft came. And he and Coach Culpepper, Coach Culpepper was the linebacker coach, and he was who I would eventually play for. They sold me on the idea, Texas has won 5 in a row, but Baylor hasn't ever done it. And we can do it here. And we're this close. And, they kind of were. They were pretty good on defense then. We're waiting for a quarterback, so Mickey signed 7 quarterbacks. They thought that was the answer. But, you had 50 scholarships, so that's okay. But they just sold me on, be the first instead of be the 6th. And that and the Baylor campus itself are what sold me to come here.
Joe, you were from Bryan, not far away. What attracted you to Baylor? How'd you get here?
Well, the main attraction for me was our high school coach. And a good friend of mine, Tommy Davis, and I came together, and we played on the same high school team. And I was leaning more toward A&M, and our coach was more about, I don't think that's really the place for you. So Baylor came in kind of late for me. And kind of like Darryl said, when I came here to visit, then it just seemed right. And then I, had a friend that was coming also, and it just seemed like the place to be. So it turned out to be a good place for me, because if I'd gone somewhere else, everything would have been a lot different. Sure enough, as freshmen, we weren't all that successful. But looking back at the 74 team, the 72 season and the 73 season, I think helped us, as far as the guys that came in 71 for sure, to be in a position to be successful, because we really did believe in each other. And as Aubrey said, we had a lot of great people on the, not only on the team, but that was part of the overall team. With Coach Taft, when he came in, personally, I've told a lot of people, I think Coach Taft was exactly what Baylor needed, not kind of what they needed, but he's a motivator, kind of part preacher, part salesman, make you believe in yourself, make you believe in the team. And I think everybody gave everything they had. And even though we had a bad record in 73, we had some good games. We just, we didn't win. We just, and then whatever Coach Taft decided to do between 73 and 74 just really worked out for us. And we didn't start off all that well, but you could tell that we could beat anybody. And that's what I believe the summer of 74 is, that we didn't have to take a back seat to anybody. We could win any game. And most of the games we won were somewhat close. We didn't have any real blowouts, I don't think. And but thinking all the way back to 74, I got to wondering, how many scores did we make in some of those games? Texas stands out to everybody, but all those other games were very important too. And I think the real success of the team came from the fact that we had just a whole lot of great people. Great players. We had some great athletes. Darryl was a great athlete, but a lot of us were good people, good players, and we gave everything we had, and things just kind of fell in place for us.
Neil, your dad played here. I mean, you had that Baylor connection. Is that how did you end up here from Overland Park,
I was
Kansas?
born a Baylor Bear.
There you go.
I loved Baylor, always wanted to go to Baylor. I was always a Baylor fan, always wanted Baylor to win. I got laughed at my whole life, all of my friends, everybody, because we were always bad. We never won. But I always believed, even as a little kid, that, hey, next year is going to be the year.
There you go.
And, of course, it never was. And every year was just, it was just, but I just always loved Baylor, wanted to be at Baylor, and always dreamed about winning a championship at Baylor. In fact, my dad, when I was a sophomore in high school, of course, my dad loved Baylor. All 4 years I was at Baylor. He picked every game before the season and stuck it in an envelope. And every year he had us 11-0, Coach. That's how he was. But I always believe nobody else wanted me when I was in high school, and I didn't have another scholarship offer. And I'm still amazed how I got a scholarship to Baylor. It was a God thing. But I came here. I just always knew we were, and I wanted to do it as a dream of mine, and just doing it. He said it. I just believed it. I thought we could, and just after that junior year, it was like all the other years. Hey, it was bad, but next year is going to be the year. And sure enough, next year was the year, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Wow. Aubrey, you were from Austin originally, went to Tyler Junior College, then came to Baylor.
Yes.
Start of 1974. That was an unbelievable non-conference schedule. Started at Oklahoma, the defending national champs, #1 in the nation, then played at Missouri, and then you had Oklahoma State and Florida State. That was the 4 non-conference games that year. Was that, for a team coming off a 0-7 conference season, that's pretty daunting non-conference schedule to face.
Yes, it was. Starting off with Oklahoma, I think the year before 73, I think they beat us 52-0, something like that. So we go up there, and I think we're like 44-point underdogs. But we all thought we had, of course, every athlete thinks they're pretty good and we were going to have a good team, and we go up there and played them well. And really had a good showing. And it kind of, even though we lost, it still encouraged us to, keep moving forward. Barry Switzer came in the locker room and congratulated us and said, hey, y'all are going to be a good football team. Remember that. And even though we lost, we weren't just down like we were the year before in '73, saying, oh, Lordy B, what's going to happen? We got beat so bad. And then the next game against Missouri, we started off pretty good. They ended up coming back and beating us. And then the third game against Oklahoma State, if I recall, I think they were in the top 15, maybe 10, 11, 12, something like that. And we played them, and we pretty much manhandled them. So we were feeling pretty good, saying, hey, this is pretty good. Well, we had that feeling pretty good feeling going into the next week against Florida State. And that first half, we're down 17-0, so that, we didn't carry a whole lot of that into that game. But then Coach Staff, he kind of got on us a little bit and kind of scared us into scoring 21 points in that second half.
It was the maddest I ever saw, Coach.
Really?
I wasn't going to say that, but,
He threw a chair through a blackboard.
Why? Wait a minute.
But it worked.
And I didn't know if we had to walk home if we lost or what. And, the plane takes off without us. But anyway, after that, we really felt good about ourselves and going into conference play.
Daryl, was the Florida State game the one that the halftime lasted forever? Was the Burt Reynolds? Was that game? Burt Reynolds was recognized?
That is the game. I have to say, I wasn't one of the one that witnessed a lot of it. I'm not sure why. I've heard Bubba Hicks talk about Leslie Benson picking the band director off of his ladder and setting him down because he wouldn't get off the field.
Yeah.
But somehow I missed that, but it was long.
Did that start, so you lost to Oklahoma but played pretty well, lost to Missouri but played pretty well, beat Oklahoma State. Did that sort of give you guys impetus? I mean, good motivation as you hit conference play?
We did play pretty well at Oklahoma. They had a really, really good team. The year before was just a perfect storm. Their quarterback from Galveston Ball, Kerry Jackson, had just been kicked off the team for the season. They were supposed to have a down year. They started a guy named Steve Davis, a little small white kid. Of course, they go on to win the national championship with that guy and had the kind of guys Oklahoma. So they were really good, and we just didn't play very well, and things went wrong. We started changing things every week. Winning's contagious, losing's contagious. We had a bad case of the losings that year. But we did play them very, very tough in '74. The game went into the fourth quarter, up for grabs. They pulled it out. We really should have beat Missouri. I can't remember all the details. We had a real fortunate play where they were about to score on our goal line, and Joe comes out. And by the way, I have to say this: Joe doesn't get enough credit in the everybody talks about all the people. This guy was the best player on our team.
I agree.
Hey,
I agree.
all right.
Yes, he was.
All 3 years.
Outstanding.
All 3 years. He did it every game. He kind of had a broken leg for a while, almost. I think your junior year for a while, right? Bad ankle, but besides that, he was unstoppable. Anyway, we had a play there. The game was about tied, and their running back tries to do the old jump over. And I get credit for causing a fumble on national media, run back for a touchdown. But actually, his head comes through the pile. It hits that ball, and Charlie McClanahan goes 99 yards with it. Now, I don't really remember what happened after that, but we managed to lose that game somehow. We should have won with that momentum. But I'm not sure, Aubrey. I think Oklahoma State was number 8. Because I can remember going out with my wife, Debbie, girlfriend at the time, to Ruth Miller's house where we'd go out to have her mother would feed all of us guys, Billy Wayne, all these, and thinking, I'm getting tired of this. We lost our 8 conference games last year. We lost our first 2 games this year. Now we're playing number 8 in the nation. When is this going to stop? And I can really remember thinking about that. And as Aubrey said, I'm not sure what the score was, but I think we played the wood to him pretty good. Maybe 30-something to 16 or something like that, which was a lot back then.
And I think it was on a Thursday night, was it?
Oh, was it?
Okay. Do you remember?
Anyway.
I thought it was a Thursday night game.
Anyway, that was a big win. Florida State was, this wasn't the Florida State of 15 years ago, they weren't good that year. So, I mean, talk about they were down, but apparently they had turned the corner and they were beating us. But then the real, I think the real clue to what was going on was we went up to Arkansas. Arkansas was good. Neal got knocked out of the game for a while. We had to score, 3 times in a row in the second quarter? Kept scoring, get a penalty, and they had a really good team. And I think that was the game that kind of showed we were here and we had to be reckoned with. And, everybody knows about the Texas game and the other things, but I think that was the game when, if anybody was paying attention, those of us on the team kind of knew, hey, they're going to have to contend with us. We're here to stay.
Interesting. I don't remember where SMU was in the schedule, whether it was early in the year or late in the year.
SMU was late in the year. That's
Okay,
the game we had to win. That was the game when we had won enough that if A&M would stumble, we could win it.
I got you. Okay.
So,
but about the SMU game, they had a guy named Louis Kelcher. If you know anything about college football, Southwest Conference, really good player. But Aubrey, apparently, he didn't show up that day. I mean, you made sure that he did not have a game that day.
Well, I was scared to death. I didn't know if I wanted to get off the bus or not, but I did, and had a lot of encouragement from my teammates. I know Doug Furch, I'd come off the side on the sideline, and he said, "You're doing good. You're doing good, Shootsy. You're doing good. You're doing good." And he encouraged me along with the other players and so forth. And I just got in his legs, and he couldn't move. And Steve Beer was so fast that by the time he recovered, he couldn't grab him, and Steve was already past him for 10 or 15 yards. So I had a good game, just very fortunate.
Actually, Louis, the week before against A&M, had 15 tackles and dominated the line of scrimmage. And then we played him and against Aubrey, and Aubrey dominated Louis Kelcher. He didn't make a play, so it was a great performance by Aubrey Schultz. It was.
One tackle by Louis Kelcher.
I was a little bigger back then.
What a great game. So much, Joe, attention is put on the Texas game, and that was a huge win, obviously. But there were the other games that you had to win to put yourself in position to make the Texas game as big as it was.
Right. Every game would be important because, it gave you confidence as you continue throughout the year. The Texas game just stood out. It was a big deal. And for the most part, I'm fairly even about anything, but it even made me get real high about some stuff for several days. But we also knew that we had to continue to play and continue to get better. I remember when University of Texas actually did us a favor by beating A&M so that we won the Southwest Conference outright. But we still had to beat Rice. Otherwise, we would have, as I remember, we would have been tied, and A&M would have gone to the Cotton Bowl because they had beat us. We just didn't have a good game against them. But all the other games for 74 were great. But just at the Texas game, just stood out for everybody. And one of the things when you ask about coming to Baylor, before we came there, and I think it may have been in 1969 or 70, Baylor played Texas very tough, because they came up with a formula to stop the wishbone, and they almost won. So, that was a big thing. But then that's kind of like a defeatist type thing, is that you were kind of celebrating not winning, even though you did well. But the Texas game was a big game for us, but all of them, all the games leading up to it and all the games after it were still great games to us. And, it was just, I guess a testimony to the guys that played. We didn't have real trouble on our team. And I think that had a lot to do with our success also, is that everybody wanted everybody to do well.
And from what I hear from coaches and from your teammates, that you were the perfect guy to play defensively against that wishbone. Did your game fit well against them?
Well, I think I sent you an email, and I told you, when I played, I was a concentrator. I really concentrated on the play that I was playing in. And some of the plays I didn't even remember until I actually saw them on film, because
Really?
I didn't think about the last play or the next play. It was all about that one play. So I'd have to actually look at the film now to tell how I did. But, overall it was good. There was a few things that really stood out to me. Ron Burns was one of the heavy hitters, and he was a freshman, when he came out for us, when we played Texas in 1974. And he had some really hard hits. So I never really concentrated on the things I did all that much. I just wanted to be there to help the team win, not be a distraction, hopefully help other people to really give everything, that we had and do well. And I think those are the kind of things that helped us to succeed, and that, we all worked together to try to do what was good.
I can answer that question for you about Joe. I think we won most of the time. I don't think we had the best talent in the league that year. Y'all agree, coaches? So, we had the most balanced offense. I think we played 8 wishbone teams. If you could beat the wishbone, the good teams were in the wishbone, you could win. Arkansas, A&M, Texas, SMU, somebody else, TCU ran the wishbone. When they'd play the wishbone, any of you football fans have heard the triple option. If you're old, like all of my crew that don't have hair, you remember the triple option. What they do is, instead of the read option like today, they would give the ball to the fullback, and if the defensive tackle took him, they'd pull it out, and then they'd go option the end. Well, they'd give the ball to the fullback. Joe would step across, club the fullback to the ground. Kind of give him the King Kong, just boom. He's down. And then he'd jump in the quarterback's face. So while the quarterback's still 1 yard on it, he pitches the ball. 11 defensive players see the ball in the air and the back going sideways, he's in trouble. So, he would stop that play single-handedly.
Wow, that's great. Aubrey, as you get to the Texas game, November 9th, 1974, you guys have some momentum. You've won some games. You lost to A&M, but you had some momentum going into that game. But here comes Texas. They were the kings of the Southwest Conference at that point. What was do you remember your attitude? Team's attitude going into that Texas game?
Well, the campus, they always had the candlelight at the stadium and so forth. It was like, what do they call it, Hex Tex? Or yes, they did that. The entire university was behind us and beating them. And, they had a little hope this year because we had won some games. So, the momentum going into that game, we thought we were going to do great, and we did. Starting out, we scored easily, got 7 points, and all of a sudden, we're down at halftime, 24-7. So, we went into that locker room at halftime. We were all convinced. We all told each other, said, we can beat this team. We can beat this team. That just some things happened that just didn't go our way. The ball didn't bounce our way. And we felt that we could come back and beat them. We actually did. It wasn't a fluke or coming back and saying, hey, we got this, or, we scored on this play and we shouldn't have. But we actually felt that we were going to come back and beat them. And we did.
Yeah, and you did. Down 24-7 at halftime, Neil, the block punt was obviously really big, third quarter to turn momentum. The block punt.
Yeah, actually, Johnny Green. Where's Johnny Green? Actually, a bunch of guys were there around that punt, but he's the guy who blocked the punt.
There you go.
He and Jim Arnold and all those guys. Let's hear it for Johnny Green.
All right.
Johnny right there. He made the play, and of course, there were 5 or 6 guys right there that just made the play. We go in and score, and I'd like to say we shut them down that second half. They didn't score another point. We scored 27 unanswered points. Of course, we win that game 34-24, and I'd like to say it's the greatest comeback victory in the history of Earth.
Amen.
Amen.
They had actually beaten us 17 years in a row.
Right.
And had dominated the old conference, won 6 championships at that point, and it's just a great day. Seven championships in a row. So anyway.
So, Joe, you beat Texas, come from behind, beat Texas. Darrell Royal comes in the locker room to congratulate you. Great moment. How do you guys get your feet back on the ground? You got more games to play. You can celebrate a little bit, but then you got more games to play.
Well, My feet didn't get off the ground because I told you I'm pretty even about
Right.
everything. But we were always taught, you take it one game at a time. And I think our coaching staff helped everybody to, stay grounded as far as what we needed to do to continue to win. I never really thought about before the season started us winning the Southwest Conference, but I just knew that we could beat anybody. At least that's what I believe, that we could beat anybody. And I think that preparation was probably the biggest thing that we had. We were prepared well, starting in the spring before. That season we used to have to lift weights after the practice, and I think that helped us also to stay in shape, stay strong throughout the year, because with injuries and just the wear and tear of playing football, which is probably worse now, but even back then, you would start going down as the season went. And I guess Coach Taft and the staff decided that lifting weights was going to keep us even, and that could have been one of the big advantages we had during that year, because everybody lifted weights. I was never a big runner. When I sent you an email, I told you Albert used to go running. I didn't know why. After practice, we'd be back at the dorm, and then he'll be going down the street. So, I guess some other guys did some extra things, but I think the consistent conditioning helped us. But as far as getting our feet back on the ground, we didn't get taken away by that win. We still wanted to keep winning.
Yeah.
And if we had played 14 games that year, we still wanted to keep winning. And that, so that's how we did that.
I got you. Coach Taft mentioned Ralph Storm. Am I correct? Ralph and Dr. Reynolds spent the night in the press box with the scoreboard lights on, 34-24, after that Baylor game. How about that? So you guys, I'm sure, celebrated appropriately, and then set your mind and focus to the next game. You hear the term, I believe, obviously, you hear miracle on the Brazos. Be interested in your thoughts on that. Was it a miracle? Was that game a miracle? Was that season a miracle? Or was it more the hard work that everybody put in, the way you guys played together, and everything just came together to make it a very memorable season?
I think a little bit of each. I know that our team, we had the chemistry. We did things together as a team. We never questioned anything. We just did what the coaches told us, and we, like the spring before, I know we did some kind of a walkathon. The coaches wanted us to be there. Every person on that team was there and did the walkathon. I think it was 10, 12 miles, something like that. We all did it. Coach Taft asked us to go to church on Sunday morning. Everybody went. Nobody complained. It was just a chemistry. I was a coach for 30 years, so I know what chemistry, how much that does for a team. And I think we had that. And we had that throughout the season that kind of helped us through the hard times. But at the same time, I think it was a miracle as well. Somebody's looking after us and finally said, enough is enough, and let's get it done. And we did. So,
Darryl, what do you think about that?
I think that one game was a miracle.
Okay.
Momentum's hard to beat. And when you're down 24-7, that takes more than skill, takes more than ability, takes more than a plan. I think that's apt for that game. Season, going from worst to first, I think it's as much a miracle as the hockey team. Whatever caused it, that's hard to do too. I think Neil, I can't fact check this, but I won't doubt what Neil says, that's the first time an NCAA team has done that. So, yeah, I'd call it a miracle, and I'm glad I was able to be a very small part of it.
Reverend, what do you think? Miracle, hard work, combination?
Well, Taft has said it was not a miracle, that we played and we earned that thing, which I also, I would never contradict Coach Taft. And, but it was pretty special, and it was pretty amazing the way it happened. And it was just, I'm just so thankful. And one of the blessings of my whole life is I got to go to Baylor. got to play football. I got to be on a 1 in team, a 1 in 10 freshman team that fired our coach. And in the sovereignty of God, we got Grant Taft. And I got to be here at Baylor when Taft was here, and Coach Hicks and Cotton and Coach Lane and all great coaching staff with all these guys. And just to be a part of what happened in '73. And of course, you hadn't mentioned this, but '73 is also when I threw the ball out of bounds. And I'm sorry, you guys, I still feel bad.
Wait. I didn't mention that on purpose, okay? Just so you know.
I'm still in counseling for that.
Yeah, okay.
But just to be that whole Valley experience, which was tough, but you know what? All of that just made the mountaintop experience of the Texas game and the '74 season that much sweeter. Wow. And it really was, yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry, Coach.
It made a great documentary, though. I remember that.
Yes, it did. Cameras were rolling on that. And incidentally,
I'd like to say one thing.
Yeah.
I think the main miracle was when Baylor decided to hire Coach Taft, because I think he was exactly what we needed at that time. And he changed the whole complexion of the program, bringing in the positiveness about believing in yourself. You know, I don't know when I believe that part came in '74. Really, Coach Taft came in with the motivational speaking, things that some of us hadn't really heard the same way, but you could buy into it. And the only, and one of the things I wish could happen, those guys that were seniors in '73, that they could have participated with us in '74, because they have laid the foundation for our success in '74. And then I think the success of Baylor after that, you know, was all laid by the people in '72, '73, and then we, you know, won the championship in '74, but those other guys contributed a whole lot.
That's good. Well, I wasn't here in 1974. I'm much younger than you guys, but I've heard the stories so much about that game. I feel like I was there, you know, at the Texas game. I do know that the radio audience was as large as it's ever been in the second half of that game, because most people left, you know, and they wanted to keep up with it, so they were listening on the radio. What about which one of you was stopped to get gas after the game?
That was
Aubrey,
me.
tell that story.
Yeah, what happened after the game, you know, of course, no one believed that we won,
Yeah.
you know, if they weren't at the game or listened to the radio. In fact, there's a couple of stories. I had a brother, I'm from Austin, and, you know, I despised the University of Texas. And my brother went to the University of Texas and was a student there. So he and his wife drove up for the game just to see how bad the Horns were going to beat the Bears that day. And they got there, and we scored first, and then by halftime it was 24-7. And he said, "Well, let's go on back home. Let's beat the crowd." So they started on their way back to Austin, and around Temple, they turned on the radio, and all of a sudden we were making a comeback, and probably half the stands, they were already gone thinking the same thing. Well, they were there in Temple and pulled into a Dairy Queen and said, "We don't know if we ought to keep going to Austin or turn around and come back to the game." So I think they just had a blizzard right there, and then just went on, chilled out a little bit, and went to. But the second part of that is after the game, I was going back to the dorm to change clothes and so forth, and I didn't have enough gas in my car, so I stopped at a gas station on Interstate 35 and pumping gas, and all of a sudden there's Jim Holler, who was the basketball coach, head basketball coach at Baylor a few years later. But he was there, and I talked to him because he was the head basketball coach at my high school in Austin. So we were talking, and he said he was listening to the game. He was coming back from Dallas, going back to Austin, and he said, "Well, you know, I turned it off. How much did they beat y'all by?" And I said, "We won." He said, "Y'all didn't win." And I said, "Yes, we did." And he said, "Yeah, right." So he got in his car and drove off and never did say anything. So
That's great.
But
Couldn't believe it.
No one would believe what happened unless you were there or listened to the radio. It was just a magical night.
Did you guys, you got together as a team, I think Thanksgiving, watched the Texas A&M game because that was significant in you guys ultimately winning the championship. Daryl?
We did, and this is one of those times when it does seem like 45 years because I don't remember Texas's record that year. They were good, but I don't think they were in the running for the championship, were they? But
Jay Black's here with the Texas
they
Sports
weren't.
Hall of Fame.
They weren't one of the players. It was going to be us or A&M, I think, and it was looking bad for us because A&M had the head-to-head, which until 2013, until 2014 was always the way you decided conference championships.
One true champion, yes, sir.
But anyway, so we all gathered at the Letterman's Lounge, and Texas just blitzed them from the get-go. It was one of those cold days that used to happen in December here in Texas every once in a while, and it was icy, and Texas scores, A&M fumbles the kickoff, they get it back, they score again. It was pretty much over in the first 10 minutes, I think, and they just blew them out. That's
big. You guys go on to win the championship. You did beat Rice. You had to beat Rice at the end.
We had to beat Rice, and I think that I heard a lot about this early in my career. The coaches didn't think I was vocal enough, being a leader with the players. But I think that was one game that I really did have a lot to say. Tell these guys, let's don't screw this up.
Really? Yeah.
You don't get many chances like this in your lifetime. Let's make sure we finish this.
Yeah. And then the old last person out of town, turn out the lights because you were headed to Dallas in the Cotton Bowl. That was great. Was the Cotton Bowl just sort of icing on the cake? I mean, you'd won the Southwest Conference Championship. What was the approach as you went to Dallas for the Cotton Bowl? Neil?
Well, it was obviously the thrill of a lifetime, and for every Baylor fan then, it was just a major moment. We had won a conference championship. We're in the Cotton Bowl, playing Penn State, and we were ahead at halftime. And one of the regrets of my life is that I just didn't play well that second half of the Cotton Bowl. And, just a major stage, we're there, and we weren't just glad to be there. We wanted to play well and represent our school and all that. And of course, they had a great second half and beat us, which I'm still in counseling for as well. But it was a major, just thrilled to be there and to play. And be a part of that.
I think I can comment on a little bit of our second half collapse. I think everybody wasn't just happy to be there, and everybody wasn't just goofing off. We made some changes on defense that year. We played 8 wishbone teams. We had 2 freshman cornerbacks playing cornerback. Our safety got hurt in the first half. They couldn't run on us, but, under those circumstances, we didn't play. They hit some big passes on us and got ahead. And then those were just things that happened. It was a bad matchup for us at that time. That's not an excuse. That's just a fact. We'd played. We were geared to stop the wishbone. We had Ron Burns, who was bigger, probably the 3rd biggest guy on our defense, and playing cornerback because to tackle people. And once our safety got hurt, and they had a good receiver, Jimmy Cephalo, a good quarterback. They found our weak spot with a good coach, and I'm not saying our coaches made a mistake. They just found a matchup they could win, and they did. It's not that we didn't go to play.
Gotcha. All right, I don't want to end on the Cotton Bowl, Neil. I don't want to. This is to lift you all up. This is to celebrate. This is good stuff that we're talking about today, Neil. So tell me this, and we'll close with this. You guys, what you accomplished as a team, what you accomplished together, have a bond that is, it'll never end. I've seen it, with Ricky, who works with us on our broadcasts. Ricky was a member of that team. But all you guys, you've got that bond. Joe, how would you describe that, the bond of this team, what you went through, what you accomplished that has lasted to this day?
Well, I don't know exactly how to answer it, but we do have a bond. It's because it was a great accomplishment, the things that we did, but I think more than just the accomplishments, the people that were part of that team and part of the overall Baylor group, including the coaches, alumni, and everybody are very special. And I think Baylor people are very special. the fact that it's a Christian university makes it very special. That was one of the reasons I said that I thought Coach Taft was exactly what Baylor needed, because you can have a lot of good coaches that'll have good ideas, can win like crazy, and then not necessarily enhance the lives of the people that they affect. And coaches affect young people in a tremendous way. And I think that the way that we conducted ourselves as a team back then helped to build a bond that, has lasted. Randy Martin has kind of reignited that in the last, 6, 8, 10 years with when we got these 40-year anniversary rings and
Right.
some of the other things. And it makes a big difference that you have people that you grew up with, that that you feel a true connection to, and doing it in a Christian environment that is voluntary. It's not like we beat over the head with it. It's something that you do because you want and because you respect the other people, and I think it's a bond for life.
That's good. Daryl, what is that has kept you guys so close now for 45 years?
I don't like to say that playing football is like being in a war, because I think that's demeaning to the people that have really been in a real war. But it is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and you spend all your time, and it's a lot of work. And like I said before, losing is not fun. 4-year-olds to 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds, or anybody. And after going what we went through in '73 and being able to come back and win it all, I mean, that really makes us, it binds us all together, that we were able to all work together towards a common goal and accomplish something that hadn't been done in so long.
Aubrey?
I think I go with what these two guys said. We were well bonded when we played, and we continue to keep in touch with everyone. Maybe not all the time as you do on social media or anything like that now, but as you get older, you start thinking about things in your life. It's really important what you've accomplished, and you'll never forget the love of the team, of our teammates. That's something that can never be taken away, and it's still there, and it seems like it's getting stronger and stronger as years go on.
That's great. Neil?
I agree with that. I think there's a special bond of us who were freshmen together on that team, who did all that stuff as freshmen. Lloyd Kitchens is over there. He was on that. He was one of those guys, a bunch of other guys. And of course, all the guys who went before us, who were there, who we were freshmen under, and Smellers back there, and Sweeney, and Cooper, and all those guys who are here, a bunch of those guys. And of course, there's a special bond with them. And then just our team and all the guys. And there's a bunch of guys here. And I really love these guys. We had a bunch of great athletes. I mean, good football players. That's why we won, and that's why but they're better men. They really are. And I'm just proud of all these guys. I'm proud of who they are. I'm proud of how they lived. They've all made a contribution. They've all done it well. And of course, I'm proud and just love just the whole experience. We got that little bitty championship ring. Show them the championship ring. Look at that little bitty championship ring. Of course, now they're all huge. They're big. But that's a special bond right there that we got one of those, and it was 50 years before that had been done before. So I truly love these guys and respect them dearly.
And I want to add to something what Neil said. We really had an exceptional bunch of people, not just athletes. I mean, I'm going to forget some, but okay. We've got a successful car dealer here, 30-year coach, youth minister, preacher. Y'all might not think a lawyer's successful, so I'll leave that out. But we've got bank presidents. We have at least 2 dentists that I know of, and maybe more. We've got home builders. We've got just businessmen, leaders of the community in every way. So we had a lot of smart, motivated, successful people. And they all put it together, and everybody on that team helped. If you've never been to a football practice, there's a lot of guys getting their head beat in that aren't getting much glory on Saturday and not getting any attention. But you can't have a practice without having 4 full squads out there. And all these guys did everything for the team, and we couldn't have done it without any one of them.
If I could say one more thing, we recognized everyone that was a member in whatever capacity in the 74 team before we started talking. Now that you've heard our stories, if we could get the 74 team coaches, players, managers, trainers, anyone that's associated with it, if you could just stand up again, because y'all are the ones that did it.
That'd be perfect.
Y'all
Y'all stand
please
up,
stand
please.
up.
If you're a member of the team, there you go. Fantastic. Daryl? Okay. Coach?
I just wanted to have a final word. Hopefully not final. I'll have some words later, but just for the lunch, today. I have to say that this is one of the great days of my life, just to see these coaches and these young men that came together at a time when nobody thought about Baylor being successful in athletics, particularly on the football field. Record was dismal, and you're only as good as a leader as the people you surround yourself with. And so I just wanted to emphasize again, these coaches, their families, these players, and the support we had from their moms and dads, all goes in to making a championship team. But I, as a coach, could never, ever have had a better group of young men to do what they did. They call it a miracle. I don't call it a miracle. We had a plan. We had a group of coaches that had brought in some young men to mix in with the fellows that were here, and we had great chemistry, and they decided. I believe came from them deciding. They believed that they could be champions. And it wasn't easy. We worked hard, and they were successful and made all of us successful. So I just want to say, John, to all of them, all of our players, and those that are not here, and to our coaching staff, you have made a huge difference in the life of this great university by your dedication, by your commitment, by your hard work, and by the fact that you believed you could kick anybody's tail that you lined up against. And that's real, real important. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.